Hello everybody, and welcome back to the Tomb Raider Underworld walkthrough. It's time to continue our way through Bhagavati. Specifically, it's time to get out of this place that we are in right now, because, as I said at the end of the last part, I made a little bit of a boob. Because I got slightly confused as to where I came in, and where I am meant to exit from. Because they are two different locations. This is the way that you are meant to exit through, but I went out basically where this episode started and where the last one ended. That exit by the staircase is where I kind of went, and I was just like, I don't know where I'm going! And then eventually I figured it out. And so we're good to go and continue, basically. So, the primary thing that we get at present is that, seeing as I think we've got a gem that we need for something or other, we are basically, at least we need to go and place that in the Shiva statue in the massive courtyard that we were in earlier. And once we do that, we will have basically access to the next bit of the level. Now, unlike the last part where I had an excellent plan as to what I was going to discuss, and it actually managed to last me the entire time of the part, which was an absolute joy. I don't quite have the same plan for this part. Rather annoyingly, this is sort of a... It's sort of a filler part. It's not quite, because we are going to get stuff done, and really there is very little filler in Tomb Raider. It's not a long game. It's about maybe 8 hours-ish. Maybe less if you know what you're doing. Or just very, very good at following a guide. That helps a lot. So you can get through it pretty quickly. But, yeah, I'd just completely forgotten where that was going. Like, just completely and utterly. I seem to recall now I was talking about filler, and yeah, there isn't much. And you can tell because the game is so short. They didn't really overly pad it out, which they easily could have done. Because, I mean, if you look at the games industry today, you can just see that people like padding. And it's a bit ridiculous. And even in the, well, especially in the Tomb Raider reboot, there's a lot of padding. Because there are moments where you feel like you have to go out of your way to get material to upgrade your weapons. And there's all that. And then you spend a lot of time chewing and throwing between actually getting anywhere and simply just failing miserably, trying to save Sam. And, oh, it's not great. Now, what I'm attempting to do right now is perform a little bit of a cheeky skip, almost. Basically, it is possible to grapple, I believe it's the second grapple ring, from this distance. It's a very, very, very challenging thing, don't get me wrong. And I don't think I quite managed to pull it off. Although I most definitely tried, as you can see. But if you can't get that to work, then just go the proper way. It's so much simpler. Or at least I'm pretty sure it's a lot simpler. Yes, it is, because you just swing over these and you are fine. Because what you need to do is you need to just get through that doorway. But yeah, I was making it difficult for myself. What you saw me do there with the reticle thing, that is pushing in the right stick, I believe. Because basically what that does is that turns on precision aiming, which you will have seen me do before, because I did it in the Mediterranean Sea, when we were killing the Kraken. Because you have to shoot the ring things. And I'm pretty sure I've already done it in coastal Thailand as well. But I've just been too busy talking about other stuff to actually mention it. Generally, you don't really ever need to properly do precision aiming. It's nigh on useless in combat. So its only use is when you specifically need to shoot the rings, and so on and so forth. Now, I have to say, I do really like Underworld. It has its flaws, don't get me wrong. Being a slightly buggy mess at times is one of those flaws. But, I don't know, there's something partially relaxing but also partially exciting about it all. I don't think I'd quite manage to beat it if I didn't follow a guide. I mean, I probably would be able to. I'd just get a bit fed up. Because I'm a slightly lazy gamer at times. Like, when I know what I'm doing, I will happily take as much time as it needs to beat something. Apart from when I get really stuck on something just really miffing me off. In which case I may just stop playing and then not touch it for years, as happened to Sonic Adventure 2 Battle, Sonic Heroes, Final Fantasy X, Nintendo Land, Mario and Sonic at the Olympic Games, Mario Strikers Charged Football, Naruto Ultimate Ninja 2, Tekken 6... Yeah, a lot of the games that I have left unfinished were because I got to a certain point and then got stuck. It's mostly because I was younger then, / I could not be bothered to put up with some of the rubbish that they are asking me to do. Like, I mean, Nintendo Land was one of those examples, because it was the first game I got for my Wii U because it came with it. And there wasn't really anything else on the console, so I played it for a bit, but it didn't really interest me. And then it's taken to now for me to go back and finish it off. Bloody pain. But I did it. And that's another game off my backlog. But yeah, that's the thing. Sometimes you do just want to continually play new games. And I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, frequently I gauge my playing time around the new releases that I want to play. I'm not going to play every single new release, partly because I don't have all the consoles, so I can't. But also, just certain games don't interest me, and I think the reason that games like Tomb Raider do interest me is because it's the platforming, and it's the mixture of platforming with the combat, and the intrigue of the story, and all that sort of stuff. Like, I mean, Lara Croft is basically just a female Indiana Jones, but she's actually much more effectual than Indiana Jones. Because I'm pretty sure it's Raiders of the Lost Ark, where Indy is basically useless. He has absolutely no influence on the plot whatsoever. Which is hilarious. Whereas in pretty much every single game in this trilogy, at least, I mean also technically in the reboot, although still not a fan, Lara actually does stuff. Because, for example, Natla couldn't have gotten all the things necessary to get into Atlantis, or the ruins of Atlantis, without Lara's help. And Amanda wouldn't have gotten the Wraithstone had Lara not wanted to go on that expedition, which ultimately caused Amanda to go batshit crazy, because, you know, being left to die and so on, but then again it was her own damn fault. So, and in the reboot there's the whole thing of Lara's the one who figures out where the island is, and she is the one who stops crazy god lady thing. It's a bit of a spoiler, but it's a major spoiler, but considering the game really doesn't care about the supernatural that much until like the last 5 minutes, I'd say it's a fair enough complaint. But yeah, Lara's always had a sense of agency about her in her adventures, which, like Indiana Jones, is missing. Which is kind of balmy when you think about it, because generally whenever female video game characters get discussed, I'm back on this topic again. It seems to be whenever I play a Tomb Raider game, or whenever I play a game with an interesting female character, whether you take interesting to mean complex or just there is a lot of issues around them, I'll let you decide which case Lara is. But yeah, a lot of female video game characters don't have any agency. So, I mean, primary example is Princess Peach. Continually gets kidnapped. Never manages to escape. There is implications that she does try, but doesn't really ever succeed, because she is useless, even though in other games she's proved to be very much not useless, so it's a bit difficult to draw together, really. But then you have characters like Bayonetta and Lara, who actually do stuff, and are successful at doing things, and have agency. And then it's just like, well, these are kind of the characters that we want to be having. There is the issue with Lara of, oh, she's just a female version of blah. And really the reboot hasn't aided much in that, because the way that they shifted the game to being very much more like Uncharted basically turned Lara into a female Nathan Drake, even though technically Nathan Drake is a male Lara Croft, because Tomb Raider came way before Uncharted did. It's just that Uncharted managed to polish up the formula somewhat. Although, having said polish up the formula, it's more have the Indiana Jones raiding temples and tombs and all that stuff. But the Uncharted series tends to go much more in the action direction. whereas the Tomb Raider series was always very much more the puzzle than the platforming, and that was what was important. But yes, now here we are at Shiva's hand. I'm pretty sure it's Shiva, because at the opening of this area, I'm pretty sure Lara said Shiva above and Kali below. Although I may have gotten that slightly the wrong way around, but I'm pretty sure I'm right. So, I guess, seeing as we are running around doing this puzzle, it's not too complicated. Or at least that side's quite simple. The next side's a little bit more difficult to deal with, but we will get to that. It's just on the other side, really. Because what we need to do is get these rays of light down to the bottom. And then, as you can see, there are little mirrors on these statues. And you can probably figure out what you need to do with them. And if you haven't figured it out yet, it's basically you just need to get the statues to reflect the things. Because that's what you... well, you can see a little gemstone here, and essentially you can use your logic then from that point to figure out what you need to do, but you need to get both rays of light working for it to happen. So, Shiva is obviously one of the main deities of Hinduism, as I was rambling on about last part. And he is one of the 3 most influential denominations in contemporary Hinduism. But most commonly he is the destroyer / transformer, because I'm pretty sure that at the end of the cycle of life he destroys everything and then life begins anew. Also, quick point, to get this artifact without any hassle, just run straight down the middle, don't go to the sides, and you'll get through unscathed. If you move to the sides of the pillars, then Naga will appear and attack you. So be careful. So, back to Shiva. Shiva's basically limitless, transcendent, unchanging and formless. And the kind of the primary iconographical attributes that he has are the third eye on the forehead, the snake Vazuki around his neck, the crescent moon adorning something, the holy red ganja flowing from his matted hair, the Trishula as his weapon, which is basically a South Asian trident, and the Damaru as his musical instrument, which is a sort of it's a small 2-headed drum. But yeah, it's really cool. The main thing that I recognise Shiva from is what I believe is called the Nataraja, which is the image, or at least the depiction of him as a dancer, or at least Lord of Dance. Because it's very popular, and I'm pretty sure that all of the images I've seen are of that. If you Google it, you will see the statue that is on Wikipedia. That's basically what I recognise as the common thing of him, but either way. Now, this puzzle is slightly complicated because what you've got to do is you've got to get the box to prevent the thing from falling down, because then, you know... Well, yeah, you need to prevent it from falling down, because then that means that the arm will stay down, and that means that you can, you know, really helpfully put the stone back in the hand. Now, Kali, who's the other Hindu character, goddess mentioned, is associated very heavily with Shakti, who is kind of seen as the mother, the divine mother of the world, and is all about kind of female creative power sort of stuff. Female embodiment and creativity and fertility and so on and so forth. But Kali is the goddess of time, change and destruction. And I want to say that the massive statue is of Kali, because it's much more in keeping with her depictions. Because it's the forearms, kind of in that kind of position that they are, with the necklaces all dangling around, and Kali basically comes from Kala, which means black, time, death, and Lord of Death, which links to Shiva. So, since Shiva is called Kala, the eternal time, the name of Kali, his consort, also means time or death. So, that leads to that. And basically, she's largely, I think, conceived as a benevolent mother goddess these days, but like the images of her are very, very, very violent. Like, ridiculously so. But I think that, now that we've just briefly covered that, because I really have no idea. My memory of the cutscene from a couple of parts ago is failing me, so I can't remember which is which. Now, I'm going to be a little bit of a klutz right now, and get all confused as to how this is working. But it's really not that complicated. Basically, you need to get this statue to be facing this way on that side, which is as simple as take it a semicircle and then drag it down the middle. Which I will eventually figure out, because I think I was just being a little bit dim at this point. Coastal Thailand was a very long recording session, if I recall correctly. It's not the longest of them all, but it's quite long. Because it's like definitely over an hour. I think it may even be like an hour and a half or something. Which, considering it's a massive multi-part level, that's not bad. But obviously I like to record these things in reasonable chunks, so a level at a time made sense. But doing that has opened up the path forwards. And hopefully we will begin to find something to do with Thor's gauntlets ahead, so this is potentially going to be very, very, very interesting. And hopefully I will figure out what the hell I'm going to be talking about. Because otherwise I am going to be rambling once again. But either way, let's drag this wonderful statue down, because sod architecture. And it's time to enter the ancient world once we have slaughtered a mass of spiders. This is a ridiculous amount of spiders. Oh! But there we go. It's time to move onwards.